Good morning, everyone. My name is Anna. I'm a second-year Master's in Sustainability Management student here at the Kogod School of Business, and I'm excited to welcome you all to our Gamechangers and Sustainability Speaker Series, where today we will be opening up the conversation to get a better understanding of how corporations are redefining sustainability leadership and impact. So in order to facilitate this conversation, we have two remarkable guests here with us who are going to really help us get more sense of how these sectors are shaping around sustainability, such as hospitality and finance. So I'd first like to go ahead and introduce our first guest here with us today. We have Denise Naguib, who is originally from Cairo, Egypt, and serves as the Global Vice President of Sustainable Operations and Stakeholder Relations at Marriott International. So Denise has had a pretty incredible career working from everything from corporate sustainability all the way to environmental education worldwide. At Marriott, Denise has helped push the company's global sustainability strategy over more than 9,000 hotels, in addition to serving on a variety of boards, including sustainable hospitality, all the way to women's empowerment within the field of business. Alongside Denise, we also have Dee Siegel here with us today, who serves as the Sustainability Engagement Leader at the Wells Fargo Bank. Dee previously served as the Deputy Chief Sustainability Officer at the White House, where she helped guide several federal sustainability programs spanning hundreds of buildings, hundreds of thousands of vehicles, and a multi-billion-dollar supply chain. Additionally, Dee has also had a career that has launched into several different areas, such as corporate engagement, strategy, in addition to international development as well. So it's evident here that our leaders that are here to speak with us today have a wealth of expertise in turning sustainable commitments into measurable action. So we're really excited to hear from the both of them today. I just want to go ahead and thank all of you for taking the time to be here with us. We're really excited to have this conversation. And of course, to Denise and Dee, we really appreciate your time, and we're looking forward to hearing about your insights. So again, thank you so much. And I'll pass it over to Dee Marchick to kick us off.
Thank you. That was impressive, yes. Anna.
She didn't even look down.
When I was your age, hello, I'm very excited to have Denise. That was great, thank you. Welcome everybody, thank you for being here. I'm really excited about this conversation. We have two just amazing experts. It's a great crowd for a Friday. I do want to do a couple promotional items because I can't resist, but this weekend we have a lot of sports. We have some basketball team players, women's 6 p.m. tomorrow, men's 1 p.m. We have our wrestling. Next Friday, we have Tinashe. I hope everybody's gotten their tickets. So a lot of great stuff going on. Let me start with Denise. You've had this incredible background, operations all over the world, driving sustainability, some really big issues. I stay at the Marriott a lot, and sometimes when I get in the room, I can't figure out how to turn the lights off, and I have to call the front desk. Do you have a lot of other people that do that, or is that just me?
Well, Dean, thank you for your loyalty. Let's start there. And I'm sorry that's the case. We tried. Is this on? Yes. Okay. We try not to make it too complicated, but I've definitely gone to sleep with the light on because I don't know how to turn it off. And so I feel your pain. It is not as intuitive as you might think across the board from an operations perspective sometimes, because every one of our hotels sometimes has, they're a unicorn and they like to be built differently. So sorry about that. But yes, you could call the front desk to ask them whatever you want, whenever you want, for sure. That's
they're always very nice. I'm just embarrassed. So all right, so let's go to a serious question, which is, you're now leading sustainability for one of the top companies in the world, one of the most global. Just walk us through your path, because you started in operations, you've worked in actual hotels, now you're in headquarters. How did all of that international operational experience help you be effective in your current role?
Well, I started as a tree-hugging hippie from the University of Oregon, where I just wanted to save the world, and I didn't know what that actually meant, but I knew I wanted to do something. And I then moved into environmental education off the coast of California, using kind of the natural ecosystem of the kelp forest to help kids understand how sustainable ecosystems function. and applying those lessons to human communities. And we were then asked by the Ritz-Carlton to implement this environmental education program at a new hotel that was opening up in the Cayman Islands. So I actually was for 3 years just consulting on this property to think about how do we actually develop this environmental education program for the guests that were going to be coming in, how do we build a facility for the guests to come through that actually has sustainability examples so that they can leverage and understand them. All of that without a single real understanding of how hotel operations worked. And I got the opportunity, I got the nudge from the then vice president and general manager before the hotel opened to actually be part of the opening team as opposed to be on the consulting side with the Cousteau organization. And I had to think long and hard about it. I'd been working for Cousteau for almost 10 years. It was a very small nonprofit organization, but focused on a lot of big work in the ocean conservation space. And to jump over to a corporation that I really didn't know a whole lot about, to be working in this space in hospitality was a big decision. And it was kind of like leaving one family for another. In that process, there was a massive Category 5 hurricane that I was on the island for when it happened. I was on the last flight into the island. And what really made the shift for me was on the culture side, seeing in a time of crisis this company come together and not only work to protect the ladies and gentlemen, the associates of the Ritz-Carlton, but also to work in the communities, really sold me on this is a company I want to be part of. And when I moved into the role of leading this environmental education program for the Ritz-Carlton in Cayman as they opened, I wanted to learn everything about hospitality. Ritz-Carlton is known for what's called lateral service. So associates, and ladies and gentlemen, they're called our associates there, can kind of go work in other departments to learn about it. And I was a manager, which generally managers don't do lateral service, but I was like, I want to do everything and anything I can. I parked cars, I flipped banquet tables, I stripped beds. I wanted to learn about the operations through and through. That experience and exposure in those 3 years in the Cayman Islands, doing my job and doing some lateral service, helped me foundationally understand the business of hospitality so that I can do what I've been doing now for 20 years better. If I didn't have that experience, I don't think I could put myself in the shoes of a housekeeper or a banquet server or the team that's cleaning after a big event to understand the work that it takes and how any change to any of those processes would ultimately need to be very thoughtful. So if I couldn't come in and say, oh, we need to do food waste composting in a different way. I know what that looked like in the operations side and had to be much more thoughtful than when I was suggesting implementation of different programs. So fundamentally learned how to do that differently.
Amazing path. Okay, and Dee, you've had an amazing path too. So Peace Corps, White House, advocacy organizations, and now one of the biggest banks in the world. So how did that happen, and how did your previous experience help you be effective in a banking company?
It's a great question. Is this on? Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Yeah, I had a really windy path, and if you had asked me, at any point in my career, did I think I would end up where I ended up 5 years later, I would not have known. And I started out, much like Denise, very interested in the environment and the world. I always wanted to be a Peace Corps volunteer and get out there and see what the world was and launch my international career, which I did. Came back and worked at Peace Corps headquarters. And I'm going to tell you a story that dates me a lot. But I ended up working on IT for development. They were like, IT is this big thing. Like, we need to bring education and computers to developing countries. This is how long ago it was. You be our like nexus and coordinator on that. And I was not excited because I didn't care about IT at all. I was really a nature person. But it really changed me and set me on a trajectory because I realized this is a huge opportunity and challenge that is not going to be solved by philanthropy or by government or by corporations alone. That we really needed a multi-sector approach. And I thought, something I never thought I would do, I'm going to go to business school because I need to learn more about the corporate world and I need to get some experience there. And that set me on a great path because I learned a lot and I got a lot of credibility, and I landed an awesome internship at Nike, which is a wonderful sustainability leader, but at that moment was kind of a little under fire a few years before. But having that summer there as a business school student in Nike, talking to the business, like learning what people who like design shirts actually think about when it comes to sustainability and how these things get made in factories around the world, and what individual questions and decisions go into that, and what are the incentives, kind of gave me the idea like, wow, this is interesting and this is hard and this is something that I love. And I got out, did some consulting for a while, but to be honest, 2008 economic crash happened. Really difficult consulting environment. And at that moment, the government was standing up what I would call corporate sustainability for the federal government. So if you think about federal agencies, they're like little companies. You know, there's like 25 big ones, and I would call the White House like the corporate structure. And the president was saying like, we need to start paying attention to our footprint. And so I went back to the government and started doing sustainability implementation. So everything from where are the recycling bins to GHG management, you know, crunching numbers in spreadsheets. I got a lot of experience in operations, got a lot of experience in policy. And we worked a lot with the White House. And one day I walked up to them and said, you know, I understand that you take people on like what's called a secondment on loan. I'd love to do that. Can I come work with you for a couple months? And they said yes. So I got in the door, and that really was something I never thought would happen, but it got me to work in a new environment with like top-notch leaders thinking about sustainability, trying to move things at scale, trying to have huge impact across the U.S. government operations, which I would call like probably the biggest corporation in the world if you just look at, you know, the vehicles, the buildings, the people, the spending. And learned a lot about leadership, learned a lot about change management, and about how to move a big organization. And I did that across 3.1 administrations. Taught me a lot about challenges and change, and how the external environment can change your job in a second, and what you do, and how do you pivot, which is something I actually loved. Challenging, but I love it. And so after a long time of doing that, an administration change, I needed a switch. And I thought, okay, what really moves sustainability? And I decided it's technology, not my thing, policy, done that, and finance. And so, but really just opportunity was there. And I got interested in this job at Wells Fargo and said, never thought I would go into banking. Wasn't really interested in banking, I'm gonna be honest with you. And I really thought about it, so I'm gonna go talk to them, and found this is a great opportunity to be working with a company that has a huge influence on how we finance sustainability and the climate transition. And so like along the way, I learned little nuggets of like how to work with people, how to work with stakeholders, how to understand operations, how to understand finance people, how to understand like leaders, you know, like working at a top level of the White House, you kind of get a sense for how leaders think about things and what matters. And I use all of those things like every day in my job, because sustainability is all of those things. And understanding the full picture, both for the bank, which is a little bit of a different type of organization or company than a hotel, but the hotels, those are our clients, so we need to understand their issues as well. Gave me like this 360 perspective, which is one of the things I think is so helpful in sustainability, is like understanding, you'll hear this from sustainability, connecting the dots. Connecting the dots is what most sustainability people will say they do. And having all these experiences really helps me do that well.
That's right. I love your examples because it reinforces a lot of what I tell students, which is you can't plan your career, be optimistic, do lots of different things. And then also, Dee, you basically saying to someone at the White House, can I come work there, being a self-advocate? And the worst they could say is no, but you did it.
Yeah.
So that's a cool way to get into the White House. Can I come work here? So let's talk about what sustainability means to your corporations. So why does Marriott care about sustainability?
Great question. So we are a 98-year-old company, 98 and a half. We're working towards our centennial celebration in 27. We have had this focus on people and the environment around us from our core as part of our foundation as a company. It started with having the first on-site doctor before we had healthcare for our associates, to have people making sure that they were taken care of. We had it where people were, we had same-sex benefits over 28 or 9 years ago as a company. We have just many of these areas of focus that have been true to who we are and our culture for a long, long time. As we then pivot and look at, well, what are those around us expecting of us? So that was kind of what we were expecting of ourselves, right? To be really focused on that. Our company has a motto that our founder said a long time ago, was take care of your associates, they're going to take care of your guests, and your guests will come back again and again. So that foundation of taking care of our associates has been there. Thinking about our guests, as our guests change and we're asking more and more questions in this space, it was really important for us to be able to be better at telling our story. There were a lot of things that we were doing that we weren't talking about. Including protection of the environment, reducing our energy and water use, trying to think about the materials that we use in our environments, feeding people good food, connecting with the local communities, all of those things. And then it started to become much more of kind of the business driver and connection with investors. When I started at the company, I didn't even know what investor relations was. And now I have about 25 or so conversations with our investors every year who are asking questions very specifically about what we're doing and how we're helping to drive business value for the company. I also spend a lot of time with our customers and hearing their demands and expectations of companies like ours, how they are making decisions on who they want to use for their hotel preferred programs, and how sustainability and social impact are elements of those decisions, are also ways by which we can
I remember you telling me that a Google or an Amazon will say, all right, I'm looking for a conference for 5,000 people, and they'll ask you about your carbon footprint and compare it to others. And
Absolutely.
so this is actually a driver of business for you.
Absolutely. We have over 5,000 RFPs that come in every year with sustainability questions, purely on the business-to-business relationship side. We have the same, if not more, coming through on a regular basis through the meeting side of the business, and then individual travelers, right? People looking at the website saying, oh, I want to go here. Which hotel options do I have? Whether they're searching on Google or Expedia and seeing some of those sustainability attributes, or the better preference is with booking direct through us, and we have the sustainability section. You can see the carbon, the water footprint of that individual hotel. If they have a third-party certification, they have an EV charger, those kinds of things, we can see very clearly that change in decisioning around sustainability. Just like all of us now are looking at products differently, reading labels, all of that is happening on the sustainability decision side, as well as people make decisions on hotels.
I want to ask you one more question on the social side, and then I'm going to go to Dee, which is, we had your CEO here. He was very proud of getting rid of the little plastic bottles that I used to steal and bring home, but I know nobody else would do that. But and get it and pumps, and I think it saves like 100 million.
500
million plastic a year.
A year.
Okay.
And that math is from 2020 when we were probably almost half our size. So.
Okay. I used to have like a whole cabinet full of them, but they're.
So did our CEO, just so you know.
Okay. But one of the things that he was really proud of was on the social side, and that was Marriott's program to crack down on human trafficking. I remember him talking about this. I mean, what are you talking about? He goes, well, human traffickers use hotels, so we've trained our employees to spot it, and we've broken up rings. I'm like, oh, like in Southeast Asia? He says, Los Angeles. So tell us what you're doing and how that's helped women.
That's great. And children. I think those are the two kind of populations that get hit the hardest in this space. Human trafficking is a massive, massive economic engine in the world, and is not something we want to support. And it does happen throughout our hotels. We have, since we developed our training for human trafficking awareness training, which is a required training for all of our associates, we've trained over 1.5 million of our own associates. We've also made that free to our competitors, and so we have had multiples of millions of others be trained in recognizing the signs of human trafficking. And our associates have recognized those signs and called authorities and actually saved lives. It's one of the few times we can say we're actually saving lives. It is really, really incredible how many times this has happened, where an associate at the front desk or at the restaurant recognizes a sign, has the training to know not to jump in and try to save something, but to instead keep track of that information and speak to another leader about it and be able to alert authorities accordingly. It happens in London, it happens in DC, it happens in New York, it happens in Sao Paulo. There are lots of places around the world, especially port cities, where traffickers are bringing people from other places around the world through ports and leveraging them for whether it's sex work or child labor or other things like that. And it is a horrific situation. And we are not gonna solve it alone, but our opportunity with hundreds of thousands of associates in our hotels every day, and travelers, right? You as travelers also can be trained and learn about and recognize the signs that are happening. This is how we can do this, and it's one at a time, but it is an amazing, amazing thing to see, and the stories are both heart-wrenching and exhilarating when you actually see these opportunities be realized in terms of people being able to step out. And now we're doing programs, like I said earlier, we have programs where survivors have an opportunity to be trained to be in hospitality. So as a out path, one of the biggest reasons survivors go back is they need income, and so or they need to eat, and so one of the ways they can really be kept out of the situation is by having training to be able to go into a business. We also have a program called Hotel Help, where hotels donate rooms into a system, and providers that are helping with human traffickers have access to those rooms. Those first 3 to 5 days after a trafficker gets out of a situation that they're in are critical to both keep them in a safe place and figure out what the future path forward. So this tool of Hotel Helps, where it basically connects survivors with hotels as a part-time situation until they can get somewhere else to be, is really incredible. And it is something that we feel very, very proud of, and something we'll continue forward.
It's very meaningful. I never thought I'd be talking to a Fortune 100 CEO about human trafficking, but it's very impactful work. All right, Dee, let's go to you. So what does sustainability mean to Wells Fargo?
So Wells Fargo is a huge bank, so our primary business is financing. So number one, we are providing financial products and services to many of the big companies across America, and we have a sustainable finance goal of $500 billion in sustainable finance by 2030. And so what does that mean? That means things like project finance for renewable energy. We are the biggest financier of utilities in America. It means in real estate, we are working with companies for affordable housing or to retrofit buildings or green buildings that they might be building. We have a clean tech practice that is growing. So all of these things are ways that we as a bank provide financing to clients to help drive the climate transition and help them achieve their sustainability goals. A second thing that we're doing is we drive innovation. So we have a program called the Innovation Incubator that we stood up with the Department of Energy National Renewable Energy Laboratory. And through that, it's about $55 million over the past 10 years. We work with emerging technology, and they work with the lab to de-risk the technology and help move it from being new technology to being commercial. And there's a second part of that program called Scalable Tech, where we actually help some of those companies match with other clients. So just as an example, we had an HVAC company that took their technology, put it into a building from one of our other clients, CBRE, which is a big real estate firm, to do proof of concept and demonstrate to help bring that to market. I was super excited to hear the CEO say, my company would not exist without Wells Fargo, without this program, which makes you feel good about what we're doing to drive these new technologies that are going to have a positive social and environmental impact. And then third, we do have operational sustainability goals. Like most corporations, we have a footprint. We have branches all over the country. We have offices. So we have goals around how we manage our own operations as well, so that we're walking the talk.
Now, one of the biggest issues for banks is what you finance, and you have advocates on both sides. Some say don't do renewable energy. Some say don't do fossil fuels. Guns is a big issue. So how do you approach those issues where your lending intersects with either environmental or social pressures on all sides?
We do that by really staying client focused. So, our role is really to help our clients achieve their sustainability goals. So, in terms of financed emissions, which is a topic across the banking sector, that's a metric, but we're really focused on what our clients are doing and how we can help them. And the best way to help them is by actually giving them financing to do the projects. So there's a lot of things that affect that, and it's their own capabilities. There's national policy, there's market forces, there's competition, which are things that we don't have control over. So we really focus on what we do best and making sure that we have the capabilities and the products that our clients need to do the things that are actually going to move sustainability forward. And so that's the way that we look at it. And what we're focused on is just business value, client focused, and that's what drives our business strategy and what we're doing there.
So I want to ask a question about, we've had a big policy shift from a president who basically was saying renewables, 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 to a president that's saying drill, baby, drill. And that's affecting everybody. But it sounds like you're still talking about emissions, savings, social issues. You're still financing renewables and EV infrastructure. So you're focused on your clients and you're not adjusting, or how are you adjusting to this environment?
Yep. I mean, again, focusing on the business, we're not changing our strategy because of changes in the political environment. So we are still holding fast on our sustainable financing goal of the $500 billion. We had the biggest year of all last year with about $84 billion, I think, last year. And renewable energy financing, even though the policy has shifted, is still going strong because companies are rushing to get these projects done before the tax credits run out. So it although there's an impact, it doesn't mean that business has gone away and there's not a role for us to still play there.
Okay.
I'll say for us, we look at this as we are a tree with deep roots. And those roots are definitely going to be grounding no matter what's happening around us. We operate in 140 countries, so the changes in one country are not going to change the company. It is really about being flexible, but understanding that these are core to who we are. Energy and water costs are going up and up and up and up everywhere. They are oftentimes our second largest cost after labor. So we absolutely need to recognize that and address that, irrespective of the language that's being used or not used. And so we are focused on energy and water reduction specifically because it brings value to the hotels in addition to it being the right thing to do. Costs are going up faster than the efficiencies are able to be realized. And so even for that, it's not even a conversation about whether to do it or not. Our owners are desperately looking for ways. As the costs go up, those ROIs become even better, right? Because the returns on them are even better there. And again, we operate in a lot of places around the world where renewables continue to be driven forward. Energy costs are really driving these efforts in a way that is meaningful. The regulations are requiring us to continue to move these areas forward. The expectations from the customers and our investors are there. So we are absolutely realizing that we have to keep going. We do not want to shift our strategy. One of the things that we are focused on is how the impacts of the policy shifts are going to impact the grid. We are all dependent on the grid, right? We don't run our own energy for most part. Even if we have on-site renewables, it's a really small subset of the energy we need. And so we want to make sure that there is a focus and continued effort wherever possible to green the grid, even with some of these policy changes, because we are dependent on it.
For students, just raise your hands if you reuse your towels when you're in a hotel. Okay.
Not judging.
And how many of your parents do that? Okay, so this side has well-trained parents. This side got some work to do. Okay, I have a few more questions and we'll open it up. Leadership on sustainability in any organization is very challenging. I started the sustainability practice at Carlisle. This was 17 years ago, and some people loved it, and some people rolled their eyes at me. And a lot of what I tried to do was build adoption and support. So I'm sure you face these issues internally every day. How do you work through those, and where do you find how do you find allies?
I think you're gonna hear me say this over and over again, but it's focusing on the business case. Like that's what speaks in corporations. I would, even in my prior jobs where I was in the public sector, there was a business case in the public sector too. Like, what are we trying to achieve that's important to us? And how does this sustainability thing that I want to talk about or I'd like you to consider help that happen? That's really key. And that's what really connects with people. It's like, what do they care about in their job? And how does sustainability connect to that and help them achieve their goals? That makes the conversation a lot easier. And if you can't actually say that, you're going to have a hard time convincing them, because it's very hard in any organization to get someone to do something because they're personally committed. Personal commitment is great, but it needs to be relevant to their job and what their boss wants them to do, and what the department wants them to do, and what the corporation is asking them to do. And if you can make that connection in that case, how does this help you achieve your goals? You're going to go a lot farther, and you're going to be able to get allies, because they're going to, I hate to use this phrase, but like what's in it for them? And you have to show that. And if you can do that, it becomes a much easier conversation.
Yeah, I think when we talk about sustainability with folks, it's top line, bottom line, or intent to recommend. Those are really important distinctions, and understanding, depending on who you're talking to, are they influenced by top line? Is part of their job to help grow the business on the top line? Is it to find savings in the business and try to make sure that our margins are better? Or is it part of this sort of overarching kind of consumer sentiment with intent to recommend, which also drives top line opportunity? And so really, I totally agree, Dee, like understanding what motivates you, the person or persons you're dealing with, how they are driving, what their goals are, and how you can get them to kind of balance out what their goals are, what your goals are, and work together to move the needle forward, I think is really important. Nobody's going to do something because you said so, right? That absolutely is not going to move the needle at all. So part of it is making sure that I understand, my team understands who our stakeholders are, what their needs are, and how do you actually help move the needle. In terms of advocates, I think one of the first ones for us was sales. Our global sales team had their antenna up way earlier, and were listening to customers much, much sooner than most of the business on what their customers were expecting. In 2012, we had 5 of the largest tech companies out of California asking us for our carbon footprint. Nobody even knew what a carbon footprint was. And so we as a sector said, wait, hang on a second, we need to solve for this, not just Marriott International, but the company is holistically in this space. We developed a methodology. Everybody said that's the way we're gonna do the math so that we can be comparable. That is a way by which we were meeting the customer need. And at the time it was 5. Now it's hundreds, if not thousands, of customers asking us this information because it's their Scope 3 emissions for their business travel. We already have it foundationally built in. We've already been communicating. They could track it year over year. So understanding sort of the motivators behind different stakeholders, and then leveraging that to build your own business case of how important this information is, how decisions are being used on it, and then be able to really drive that effort forward for the company.
2 last questions. We've put a lot of energy into sustainability. We have some amazing faculty here. We've invested a lot. We just received the number 3 ranking in the country and number 5 in the world. So this is a big priority for us. We want to be the best. But right now, given the government environment, it's like there's downward pressure. And so students ask me all the time, is this a dead end? Like, should I be getting an undergrad or master's or a minor in sustainability? So is it a dead end degree? Is it a dead end, or should they be optimistic and excited about this?
So I say no, it's not a dead end. That's my definitive answer. And there have been many administrations and political wins in this country that were less interested in sustainability. Like, that's the way the country goes. It swings forward and back and forward and back. And it was just 4+ years ago where the first Trump administration also, people had the same question. And so I think that what you see is that businesses are interested in this. And, just coming back, we were talking earlier that Climate Week, which is last September, where everyone gets together and talks about climate. I just went to a sustainability conference last week or the week before. And the conversation has not changed that much. People are still excited. They're still doing the work. They're still committed. They might be changing things around the edges. Maybe there's a pause in hiring, which might have something to do with the economy generally, not sustainability specifically. We'll see. But but what the discussion was is like, we just need to buckle down and talk about the business case and how this accrues to like the corporate bottom line. And people are still all in, they're still committed, the jobs are still going to be there. And so I don't think so. I think don't let short term things, change your mind. If this is what you really want to do, you're committed, you enjoy it, you see value in it, keep charging forward. The opportunity is going to be there. You just might know the exact path.
100%. And again, one country out of 200 and something in the world. There is need and desire and focus and attention to this everywhere. The world is not going to just be able to pause and not address this. We're already seeing that, right? The trajectories are very clear that we're going to, pass the warming temperatures that we had hoped not to be able to pass. We have to think about adaptation. We have to think about resiliency everywhere. It's not just going to be unique to one place. And in this country, we are also already seeing it, right? The impacts of climate change, the impacts of, costs associated with food, energy, et cetera, are real. And so if we aren't addressing that and identifying that opportunity, we've lost the game. And because of that, I think it's so important for people coming out of universities and graduate programs to recognize that these roles are going to be maybe slightly different in the future, but they all have to be embedded in this idea of business value. And if you really focus on that, I think there are lots of opportunities out there and lots of pathways that you can take to work through and in sustainability, because at the end of the day, it's about how do we sustain our lives. A lot of people say sustainability is about saving the planet. And I say, no, it's about saving ourselves, right? Like the planet's going to be just fine without us. So really thinking about like, how do we actually recognize our role in making sure that we have a resilient planet in the future? That starts with each of us.
Okay, my last and most important question is, how do students, Marriott's one of the largest employers of AU students in the world. I think it's our 4th or 5th largest employer. And thank you for hiring a lot of AU grads too, and interns. How do students get an internship or a job with your two companies? What's your advice?
Careers.marriott.com. That's the most direct place. We do have intern programs that I think it's happening now, so definitely take a look if you haven't already and applied. I think the positions are hired in January for the summer. We do also have...
Our career office has good relations with the Marriott team,
Yep.
So go talk to our career office at
Good.
Kogod.
Yeah, we have a dedicated person, Randy. She's not here. Ronnie, sorry, she's not here today, but she likes to hang out on campus and connect the dots. There are also programs in all over the world called Voyager program. That's kind of our introductory level exposure to the business. It's usually a 12 or 18-month rotation program, generally in hotels, although we are looking at what that might look like at the corporate office. And it's a rotation around all the different parts of the business to be able to really get exposure and understand what those pathways are. So those are both available for more information on careers.marriott.com.
I will say wellsfargo.com. I think I need to advertise as well. Please go check it out. We also have an internship program, especially for MBA students or business students in particular, but also across other parts of the bank. But I think my advice is kind of general advice for getting a job is like learn about the industry, learn about the company, find people who might want to talk to you. People are usually pretty giving and really interested in helping students. It's a great time of your career to go out there and just say, hey, I'm learning, I'm thinking about my future career. It's the perfect time to start having those informational conversations. And so, you have those connections and you have some understanding. And maybe you'll find out about an opportunity. But it's like just basic job hunting skills. There's no special sauce, I think. But do go to wellsfargo.com.
And we also have a relationship with Wells Fargo. Mike Santamassimo, who's the CFO of Wells Fargo, is an AU grad. He's on our advisory committee, and so he's been nice enough to facilitate a very nice relationship. So our career office also has that. Okay, we're going to open up to students. I forgot one plug, which is on Tuesday of next week. I think Katie Griggs is that Tuesday. We have the president of the Baltimore Orioles. Okay, so it's a great event. I just want to give you one data point, which I just looked up, using AI a couple days ago. There are 124 sports teams of the major 4 male sports, okay, called the big revenue sports that have the big TV contracts. Hockey, football, basketball, baseball, 124. 4 presidents of those organizations are women. Only 4. That's like that's 3%. One of them's coming here. She's amazing. She also happens to be someone who's broken through as a woman, so that'll be a good event. So who wants to ask the first question? Ethan, and then over here. Let's get a mic though. Yeah. And just introduce yourself and what you study.
Hi there. Ethan. I'm a second-year MS Sustainability Management student. The question I have is a bit kind of thinking of like almost like a circular economy kind of question, and a responsibility or a reliance on each other. And my question is for both of you in the sense that Marriott, okay, first, is it Marriott or Marriott?
Marriott like chariot,
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought.
or like Marriott.
Oh, there you go. So with Marriott and a lot of hospitality, the business model is going to be individual owned and operated, not corporate owned and operated. And a lot of those folks at the ground level, you said 140 countries that you're in, different regions, they all have different needs for sustainability, but they might not know what sustainability looks like for their operations and look to corporate and ask you, how do we finance these? To which then you might look to strategic partners like Wells Fargo or Barclays, who has their $1 trillion commitment, that have commitments to sustainable finance. So then the question to you is, how do you, if with that commitment, find existing products or new products that you can bring to market for B2B customers who are looking to deploy that cash globally to implement those projects?
Yeah, just a couple of thanks for the question, Ethan. We have about 10,000 hotels. We own about 20 of them. We manage about 2,500 of them, and the rest are franchise, right? They have our name. They are not our associates. They're not employees. And for all of those, whether we manage or franchise, we don't own the asset. It's not our building. We can't really invest in the building from that perspective unless we buy it. And so it fundamentally changes the way that capital decisions are made for our asset. And so there are things that within kind of the operational control we can help support and drive, but when it comes to capital expenditures, absolutely it's the owner's responsibility to actually work through that. And one of the ways we do that, we do have banking relationships, Wells Fargo is one of them, right, that our owners can go to, leveraging either requirements that we have to say, hey, we need to do this, right? They have to renovate at a certain cycle. They have to put in a new brand programming or whatever. Those are ways that they can basically leverage the demand for their franchise or management agreements to say that we need financing to do these things. The other side of it, specifically from a sustainability perspective, is we see more and more of those funding mechanisms requiring sustainability attributes in order to fund, whether it's a new hotel or a renovation to a hotel, where our owners are coming to us saying, I can't get capital unless I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Help me figure that out. One of the ways that our hotel owners are having to really think about this and pivot more is really having that third-party sustainability certification in order to get the financing to do some of those efforts. We also have owners that are able to get green bond kind of financing to do some of those big efforts. And so they're going to lenders like Wells Fargo to say, I want to do these big projects. I don't have the capital to do that. Can you help me with that? And then it's a win-win. The owner benefits, right, from the efficiencies perspective. The carbon footprint is reduced for that hotel as an example, or water, or whatever it may be. They're able to better articulate that to the customer, where they then get more business, and then they get kind of that revenue circularity of funds.
I'm just going to say that Denise answered that question for me. Great job. I could not have done it better.
Okay, your name and what you study is?
I'm Scarlett. I am a freshman. I am looking to major in psychology and business administration with a specialization in international business.
Okay.
So my question is, first of all, AU was holding a sustainability competition between each school/building, which ends today, and
We're gonna
Kogod
win.
is in 8th
What?
place.
No.
Yeah, with 674 kilowatts increased. To you, I have a question. Why do you think that is? And then for our guests here, what do you think is a good way to keep or to help Kogod be more sustainable?
Okay. Thank you very much for that fake news. I'm actually shocked by that because we typically are the top building and program on campus for sustainability. We have no plastic bottles, thanks to Julie and Stephen. We won the competition for the lowest waste and the most recycling. A few of us were out there in it was like Breaking Bad outfits without the bad stuff, like going through trash. And so we were the first school we've actually agreed to reduce the number of garbage cans and recycling bins so I'm surprised, but I will look into it, and I appreciate you flagging that because we usually try to be number one. And I know Julie Anderson, Professor Anderson, has been all over this, working with our Office of Sustainability and Professor Nicole Darnell too. So I'm surprised and I'm challenged by that, so thank you.
This is a tough question. I think what I would say, kind of to provide you some support, is sustainability is a journey. And there are often, blips, there are things outside of your control. And so what you're doing is kind of the right thing. Look at the data, see what the data tells you, figure out what's going on, and look for places to target improvement. It's maybe not going to be a straight line. What matters most, and when you're looking at companies and their sustainability journey, I would encourage you to do the same. Sometimes things are going to go up and they're going to go back down. Don't look at the month to month, year to year. Sometimes you need to look at the 3-year horizon, the 5-year. Are things going in the right direction generally? Because there's going to be challenges. There's going to be things outside of your control. And part of that is figuring what those are, figuring ways to address those, and powering through. So
and
I
actually,
have hope
I'm
for
really
you to
excited.
get past 8.
I'm happy you flagged this because when that came out, I just said, I assume Kogod will win because we are ahead of the rest of the university on all these sustainable. But I got to figure this out. So thank you.
Well, how many of you actually have classes or courses in the Kogod? It is your responsibility. I think that's you are all in there. Are you seeing things? See something, say something, right? Are there lights on that shouldn't be? Is there water running that shouldn't be? Is there a gap in the recycling infrastructure that should be highlighted? It is all of your responsibilities to highlight that. Look at how many more hands out there than Dean. Right?
Also, we offset our AI use at Kogod.
So I think it's really important to recognize our individual role. I'm going to share a super quick little story that keeps me running from a sustainability perspective. The sun was rising. It was the very bright early morning. There's this older gentleman walks out to the beach and he's going to go for a little walk. He sees somebody dancing in the distance, thinks, oh, how cool this, somebody's taking a morning dance on the beach. As he gets closer and closer, he sees it's actually a little girl and she's doing something methodically. And as he gets even closer, he sees that she's picking up sea stars that have washed up in the high tide and throwing them back in the ocean. And once he gets close enough to talk to her, he says to her, what are you doing? Look at all these sea stars. They're all the way up and down the beach. Without skipping a beat, she bends down, picks up another sea star and throws it in. And she said, I made a difference for that one. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be, let me take it all on at once. Find one thing you're doing, one thing that you're seeing, a change that can happen. That's all it's going to take, and it's going to take all of us doing that over and over to make the impact.
But I want to win that competition. I'm very grumpy about this. I'm looking for Stephen Nantier, but he's maybe hiding from me. So, okay, back here, just introduce yourself and what you study. Wait, hang on one second.
Oh, sorry.
Sustainability management student, and my question is for Dee. I'm wondering, how does Wells Fargo manage and assess climate risk in the portfolio, and what are the most important data parameters to assess that risk?
Great question. So climate risk is embedded in the risk management across the portfolio. So we have it as a consideration, just like many of the risks that might come with any project. So it's part of the risk assessment process for any deal that would occur. The data question is a great question. I don't know the answer to that. But if you want to email me, I can ask my colleagues and answer that for you.
Oh, wait, can I just go back here? I'm sorry, you were okay, you, and then there was one over, yeah. two of you just introduce yourselves and what you study.
Okay. Hi, my name is Christopher. I'm a Master's of Business Analytics and AI candidate at Kogod, so tracking that as well. My question is for both of you. One of the bigger parts of the sustainability conversation is AI, and I know Kogod is positioning itself as very AI forward and a leader in the AI education space. So for both of your companies, maybe Wells Fargo a little bit more than Marriott, how are you balancing that attraction to AI and wanting to be AI forward with like managing the sustainability effects of AI with the water that it consumes and the carbon footprint, again, that it will produce?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I would say like a super of the moment topical question. You know, I've gone to like some energy conferences recently, and AI is the topic on everybody's minds, and no matter what conversation you're having, somehow AI always gets in there. So it's really important. Where we are is like AI is happening, and the company is interested in figuring out how we can use AI to be a better company. You know, we have some data centers, and we're working to make those more efficient. But the reality is, most of where the AI happens is in third party. So it's you know your service providers like Microsoft and Google that are providing this, and you know those companies are focused on it and have targets for clean energy and are looking at water. So you can probably all read about that publicly. But we're still, you know, it's early days. This is a really new emerging issue. Like everybody's trying to figure it out. Everyone's looking for solutions, and so you know we're watching it. Like I think like many companies, like we're trying to use AI and we're trying to look at what the issues are and figure out the path forward. So I think more to come, and if that's what you're studying, you are in a good business for today.
Yeah, I think similarly, again, we source the use of it, and we are using it. You know, Microsoft Copilot has been deployed pretty ubiquitously through our corporate office and our regional teams. And so one of the biggest questions we're receiving is, you know, how do we make sure this is more responsible? And so we are working with our digital leadership to understand sort of how do we, as they communicate, you know, how to use AI responsibly, how the environmental story is part of that, not to use it for stupid stuff, right? Like, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things that you can use AI for. If you're just creating like image after image, that is using a lot of energy. And so really being thoughtful about why you're using it, how to use it most effectively, but not to not use it, because we have definitely already realized a lot of opportunities for the sustainability team specifically to put ourselves in a situation where we are creating capacity so that we could do more by having AI do some of the stuff that we just don't need to touch regularly.
I just want to offer one thought on that too, because I spent a lot of time thinking about this. It's a double-edged sword. Mm-hmm. It's definitely driving energy up. And unfortunately, 70% of the data centers are going into water-scarce areas. Yeah. Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. Why? Land's cheap. Mm-hmm. It's open, and you can build a plant there quickly. So that's the negative. The positive, and I actually just did a post on that this morning, is that companies are using AI to enhance sustainability outcomes all over the world. This is a really cool area for any student here to bridge the nexus between sustainability and AI. If you want to be well positioned for a job, have sustainability and AI on your resume, you're going to get gobbled up. But I'll give you an example. There's a company called Xylem. They are a water technology company based in DC. We do a lot with them. They provide technology solutions to water utilities all over the world. They just put out a report on use of AI they're saving billions and billions of gallons of water around the world. Leak detection, improved demand forecasting, failure prediction, running vast amounts of data to micro-target severe weather events, which overwhelm water systems and also put pollution back into like in DC. Yeah. You get a micro burst, it hits the water. So I think it's a definite two-edged sword. We do offset. I'm looking at you. I'm still thinking about my grumpiness. We do offset our AI use. We use Perplexity, and they gave us the carbon footprint, and we offset that. So that was a decision we made. But I think it's an interesting area of focus. Okay, one more question. Did you? Yeah.
I think I was technically next, yeah. So, hi, my name is Bo Wilcox. I'm a alumni from SIS, School of International Service, auditing a course in Kogod. Sorry. Quick context on the competition. It's megawatts reduced over a certain time period, so maybe SIS just did good for this time period, reducing energy in the competition, but Kogod's still good overall, best overall, so, you know.
Can you say that again? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just saying what I saw. I don't know about the rest of the data. But long story short, the first question is, just curious to hear what your companies are doing about their intensity targets versus, you know, maybe just the static, because as you say, the demand for water, other resources, it's going up. So, you know, I feel like there should be a greater emphasis on the intensity and trying to reduce that rather than, you know, just sticking to the static targets. Secondly is, what are some major data gaps you would like to address within your sustainability initiatives? Just, I'm a data guy at heart, so, you know, trying to assess what skill set I can bring to various companies, this would be a great way to understand how I can fit that gap. Thank you.
I'll try to be really quick about it. We have an absolute emissions reduction target because we do have an approved science-based target, so we are looking at the absolute from an emissions perspective. And our hotels are focused on an energy reduction year over year, because that's the thing they can control most directly, is the energy that they're using versus the emissions associated with that. So there is sort of we're playing both parts of it and keeping very close tabs on all of it. Obviously, we want them to reduce energy. We also want to make sure that the energy is the best version of itself. On the waterfront, we're actually getting ready to roll out our third set of water goals. So this will be the third cycle that we have a water intensity goal. It's occupancy based, so it is per occupied room. As occupancy changes, you can imagine water use changes. And so in order for us to really understand how do we drive efficiency versus and not be kind of looking at it as like we don't want to grow because we're a growth-oriented company. We do want to grow, but we have to make sure that we're more efficient with our water use. And then the third part is in terms of what are the data gaps. Data for energy and water is really slow. Sometimes it's 45, 60 days in the rears. You can't action on stuff that late. And so, and today, the ability to get, metered at that granular level is just still really cost prohibitive. And so I think just the ability to get much more of that real-time data to be able to make better decisions more quickly, I think is a real opportunity. And I know there are a lot of companies doing that. It's just getting it at a price point that makes most sense is where I would say we'd lean in.
Just real quickly, I think I would answer this more in the general and thinking about my past job where I actually, helped set the metrics. Like, what are the metrics that we're going to measure and how are we going to talk about our progress and how are we going to hold the various agencies or components across the government accountable for achieving our overall goal. And I think my answer to that is you have to do both, and they serve different purposes. Like an intensity target or intensity measure versus an absolute measure, like have different purposes and tell you different things and different information. And so it's really important to look at both and look at data again as information to help you make better decisions, not just a number to put out there to make yourself look good, or to every piece of data has a story behind it. You need to look at what are the boundaries, what are the time periods, what are the exclusions. So I think that the key is really looking at these as tools, not like ends. And I would echo what you said about data gaps. I can't say anything better.
Right. So thank you all for coming. I just want to give one final pitch. Like, when I was in college, I would have been just getting out of bed on a Friday afternoon. Like, the fact that you have standing room only is incredible. And Anna, you did an amazing job. I couldn't have done that when I was your age. So, Denise, Dee, thank you very much for being here and for sharing your wisdom. And I'm sure they'd be happy to talk to anybody if you want to talk to them.
Thank you, and congratulations to Kogod on your rating. That's
Oh, yeah,
fantastic.
that's
Not that rating, the other one that you mentioned earlier.
We're going to work on that.